Hello, so today I'm talking about Qi, spelt Qi, pronounced Qi, life force. Now, that's because I'm a fan of Qigong and Chinese medicine. Well, I'm not. My Chinese doctor knows something about Chinese medicine. I'm trying to learn a lot about Qigong because it's helped me a lot these last 2.5 years. Now, let's start from the beginning. What I'm going to do in this clip is marry East and West, marry them together. Qi and nitric oxide, which is produced in our vascular system, and it vasodilates our vascular system and allows blood to flow, which is very close to Qi, blood. But Qi is not quite blood, but it's the bioelectricity, let's say, in our body, or as I called it before, the life force. So I was going to say playing around, but that's not the right word. I started through necessity after my stroke. The times were rough, and I needed a discipline that would help me on a high level, something that really addressed my body, that I could work at to progress, to make some progress. So I chose Qigong very early on after my stroke. And I soon learnt how to meditate a little bit with abdominal breathing. And during meditation, one thing I might do, for example, is lead my Qi from my middle Dantian to my lower Dantian. The lower Dantian is like the center of gravity. It's an area where Qi is very commonly stored before circulating it around the body. Now, I've said a lot already. So when I meditate, I start with breathing. That's now the vagus nerve helps us here. The vagus nerve is our friend. It's our insight into what's happening in our torso. It goes all over the place. It's a wandering nerve. Now I start breathing using abdominal breathing. I expand my belly. You should not see my chest or my shoulders rise as I breathe in. That is the wrong idea. In fact, the chest and the shoulders should remain low, disengaged. And by expanding the belly, that will move the diaphragm down, which will draw in a lot of deep breath into your lungs. After it's full, I release. You have to have your mouth closed, by the way, otherwise nitric oxide is going to be not produced. So as you expel your breath, you also engage your huyin cavity, the perineum between the anus and your genitals. Because if you imagine a beach ball deflating, you're trying to get the air out. A little bit of pressure will help the air to go out of the beach ball, which are your lungs. So let me just do it to put myself into the right frame. So just a little tightening of the perineum will help to release the air. And you can think of the air of going through your skin. There are many things to think of here. So let's say half an hour of abdominal breathing gets me in the zone. And let's say I've had a bit, let's say my tummy's a bit blocked after an evening meal. So let's say I'm doing this meditation before bed. Typically, I will concentrate on my abdomen by focusing my thought on my middle dantian, solar plexus, or the diaphragm, and leading my Qi down to the lower dantian, I have done this many a time. And it usually helps my diet. You can hear my tummy gurgle and all sorts of things as I lead things down to this lower elixir field. And the lower Dantian is our center of gravity. It's right in the center of our gut. Now, lowering qi there, how's this done with the mind? You imagine, you lead it with the mind, you visualize, and you start to take control of your internals. Now, it just so happens that how is blood led from A to B? Well, we have circulation. Grounding helps for that a lot. Circulation, and good circulation is helped by nitric oxide. So the endothelial layer of our vascular system, so I'm talking about arteries, veins, capillaries, the endothelial layer is a lining of the blood vessels, which is just one cell thick, but it produces nitric oxide, and which vasodilates our vascular system and helps blood flow. Now, if I had a bit more nitric oxide in my system, I wouldn't have had a stroke, possibly, because we lose nitric oxide from the age of 20 to the age of 80. It just decreases. So it's a very good idea to look into nitric oxide. Eat some beetroot, some spinach, things to enhance your nitric oxide levels, maybe even L-arginine or citrulate malate, some supplements. But anyway, let's get back to nitric oxide, which is produced in our cell walls of the vascular system. Now, if we're leading qi from A to B, for example, into our lower Dantian, I am using my mind to do this, to dilate the vessels. And by dilating, I'm talking, yes, nitric oxide, releasing nitric oxide to do the trick for me. But there are two little techniques that I have learned that will put you in the zone or get you close to releasing nitric oxide. One of them is pandiculation, which I've talked a little bit about. And pandiculation is a voluntary contraction of muscles. And then I release them. Now, this is not a stretch. This is close to a stretch, but this is active, not passive. A stretch is passive. And here I can release whenever I like, but I'm actively keeping myself in pandiculation state and then letting go. It's very similar to exercise, really. But with pandiculation, you have to really enjoy this. I'm going to call it stretch, but you've understood there is a difference between pandiculating and stretching. And all exercise is good to release nitric oxide, absolutely. It will release even nitric oxide off your mitochondria. And because nitric oxide competes with oxygen in our mitochondria, and our mitochondria give us 90% of our energy. It's very important. Nitric oxide, you will find, is everywhere in our body. When our blood delivers oxygen and then changes on the way out, it picks up carbon dioxide. That reversal from oxygen to carbon dioxide, nitric oxide, is what encourages that. Anyway, so pandiculation will get you some of the way there. It's important with pandiculation that you enjoy the stretch. You do it with huge pleasure. It creates a certain emotion that you have to feel this emotion, otherwise nothing happens. If you just do it without feeling, nothing happens. Now, another thing that primes you and halfway gets you there is piloerection. Well, that's when we feel goosebumps. The hairs stand up on the back of our neck. So I'll do it right now. So let's say I feel awe. The sun has come out. The sun. And I almost feel, I feel a lightness, a tickling. There's a lot of motion going through, and that is close to producing nitric oxide, probably is already producing nitric oxide. I mean, you'll have to do a bit of studying. Piloerection, pandiculation, and using our imagination, our visualization, it is possible to stimulate the release of nitric oxide, and this enables qi to flow, and this will lead your qi from A to B. Now, how do I know this works? Good question. Because I was doing it yesterday, so I sprained my neck, a bit of air at night, I don't know what, and I've been a bit low on energy, a bit stiff, my two sides, just my things that I have to be careful and not overdo things. Anyway, so yesterday I was doing some meditation because I said I've got to get back to Qigong, do a bit more. And during this meditation, I felt an incredible flow of heat going down both my arms to my hands. My hands got hot. They were warm, super warm. I mean, no, they were not warm, they were hot. This heat came down my arms and then took over my body. It went down my arms to my hands, and I was like, I was in shock, almost. Except that I knew exactly what was happening. Actually, I told this story to my Chinese doctor, and he said, that's qi. I said, yes, I know it's qi. But I also happen to know what the Western world, how the Western world would describe it with nitric oxide, which is a gas that lasts less than a second in our body and it's gone. But it's everywhere, it's a signaling molecule. So I happen to have studied a bit of Western medicine, only for 2.5 years, but having read about 100 books on it, I think I've learned something. And very soon after my stroke, I took a huge interest in Qigong, which has helped me so much with my stroke. So, qi, we know how we can enhance it, the circulation, the nitric oxide, allowing vasodilation to occur. Again, if I had more nitric oxide, I wouldn't have had a stroke. So do eat beetroot, do eat spinach. You can take some supplements, L-arginine, citrulate, malate, and there are ways you can hum. Allow your nose to vibrate when you hum, to try and make an om sound with an N in it. A low tone. If you feel your nose vibrating, you are producing nitric oxide. Not everyone can do it, but that's one way of producing nitric oxide. So it's NO, one molecule of nitrogen and one oxygen, nitric oxide. It's huge. It's a big buzzword in terms of biohacking and health. But so is qi a big buzzword, and it always has been for thousands of years. It's the life force. And I propose these are one and the same thing, two sides of the explanation. So I hope that's stimulated some interest in the topic, or perhaps you know a bit about it. But I've not copied any other clip on YouTube or anything like that. This is original thinking and original putting together my knowledge of East and West together, marrying them. And these are wonderful techniques that I use to enhance my circulation, along with earthing and lots of other therapies that I use. Anyway, it's a fascinating topic. I hope you have been a little bit inspired, and see you next time.